Life, I mean, we are old people now. Can you believe it?
Welcome to the Empowered Woman Speaker Series, honoring women who inspire other women. The Same Sky Foundation works to empower women through the Hand Up model. By providing training, education, we lift women up to become financially fluent and have a more secure future for themselves and their family. We are so lucky tonight to be here with the iconic Diane von Furstenberg, designer, philanthropist, champion of women, and author of a new fabulous book, Own It.
We're going to start soon. Just look gorgeous and be happy.
We have to own our strength. We have to believe that in our own strength. The earlier you learn how to count on yourself, the better off you are, because you can't be happy with anyone if you're not happy with yourself. I mean, there should be more women in politics. There should be more women running. There should be more women CEO. And they will be. It is happening. There's no going back.
That you invented the wrap dress in 1974. And I still have one, and I know so many of our viewers have one in their closet. Talk about sustainability. You were so ahead of your time. So go on.
No.
You said something great when you said, don't wait for tragedy to know you are strong. I know it speaks volumes to your approach about life, and I'm deeply and have been deeply inspired by your philanthropy and your efforts to recognize phenomenal women. It meant so much to me to learn about these women. And you know, the DVF Awards, which I attended almost every year,
I know.
after Women in the World, you know, God bless Tina, but women like inspired me, like Robin Roberts and Gloria Steinem and Hillary Clinton and Anita Hill and Dr. Jane Goodall and Alicia Keys and Katy Perry and Gabrielle Gifford.
RBG, last year was RBG.
And RBG, and of course the Nobel Prize winner, Nadia Murad.
Right.
I mean, you are the epitome of women supporting women and lifting women up. And I remember meeting Shushu
From Congo.
From the Congo, this fearless voice who held the Democratic Republic of the Congo accountable, and she shined a light on issues, broadcasting information on rape victims in a society where injustice is often denied. And she trained 100 girls to become journalists, and she created her own radio station and did so much for the countless survivors of rape and sexual violence. You are such a champion of women, and now you're up to 7 books, and I want to talk to you about Own It, because it consists of 286 powerful words, and it's written kind of like a dictionary. I find myself picking the book up all the time and just opening it to a certain page, and you've conveniently underlined some of your magnificent pearls of wisdom. Can you tell me, when you started to write the book before COVID, tell me what changed during COVID?
All right. First of all, since you were talking about the DVF Awards and you mentioned all these great women, those are women that people know. But the truth is that those women are almost used in order to give light and voice to these other women that people don't know. So when I created the DVF Awards, it's a way to highlight these unknown women. And so amongst these unknown women, I then bring the Lifetime Award to women that people really know and respect, because at some point, I think that, especially now at my age, when we have a voice, it is most important to use our voice, our experience, our knowledge, our connections, our resources in order to help other women to be the woman they would like to be. And that is really the goal for everything that I do at this point. And to create as much impact, which is what you do, and your organization is an extraordinary organization, because you help women out of poverty, you help women in jail, and that is so incredible, because you save one woman and you have a dynasty behind. And we know that women are strong, and we know that women are resilient. So it's if you pay attention to that and you give them opportunity, they grab it like nothing. So I have always been engaged in women, making women. So when you said about when you don't wait for tragedy, I think it's important to remind your audience that I am the daughter of a survivor. My mother, at age 22, was in occupied Belgium. She was arrested. She went to Auschwitz. She did the death. She worked in slave labor. She did the death march. And by the time she was released, she weighed 45 pounds. She couldn't move. She couldn't do. But when they filled the questionnaire and they said state of health, even though she couldn't move, she wrote excellent health, because no matter what, she never wanted to be a victim. And that is what my mother taught me. She wasn't supposed to. She came back to Belgium. Her mother fed her little by little, little by little. Within 6 months, she had gained her normal weight. Her fiance came back. They got married, and the doctors say, no matter what, you cannot have a child. You have to wait 3 years, because you will not survive and the child will not be normal. And sure enough, 9 months later, I was born. So my mother used to say, God saved me so that I can give you life. By giving you life, you gave me my life back. You are my torch of freedom. So I was born and raised with a torch of freedom in my hand, which is not necessarily a very easy thing to have to carry. She would not allow me to be a victim ever. She would not allow me to be afraid. If I was afraid of the dark, she put me in the dark closet. Today, she probably would get arrested. But as a result, I always threw fear away. And I did not know what I wanted to do, but I knew the kind of woman growing up that I wanted to be. I wanted to be a woman in charge. And I became a woman in charge at 28. But by the time I was 28, I had 2 children. I was already separated from my husband, and I had a successful business. So I had become that woman of my dream. And no, after that, obviously, a life is not just go up, up, up. I had a lot of difficulties. I had failures. I had cancers. I mean, all these things. And that is part of life. But I had the voice, and I have always used that in order to help others, because with your voice, you can make so much happen. And the so when the publisher came to me and they say, we would like you to write, people quote you all the time, we would love a book with your wisdom. And at first, the book was supposed to be called In Charge, right? Because to be in charge is not an aggressive statement. To be in charge is first and foremost to be responsible for yourself, owning who you are. You own your imperfection, they become your asset. You own your vulnerability, you turn it into strength. So I started, and at first I started like a normal prose book. And I remember the first sentence was going to be, we cannot choose our parents. because it's a little provocative, and it's the first thing that it's true. We arrive, we land in a family, and we cannot choose our parents. And a lot is good, some is not so good, but whatever it is, we got to own it, and to become our own person. And then, because everything went back to own, no, then I decided I didn't like writing it as a prose because I thought it was condescending, and I don't like to be condescending. So I took my big, my big copy notebook, and I wrote all the words that spoke to me. And I wrote every page was a letter, A, B, C. And I wrote the words that spoke to me, and some words that don't speak to me, like shame, blame, all of those. And with fear, things that I think are toxic. And then and then I decided I was going to make this book like a dictionary. So every word gets either a definition or an anecdote and everything. And everything goes back, no matter what I write about, it all goes back to own it. And that's when I realized that owning it is the secret to life. I'm sorry if the answer was too long. But
No, it wasn't too long at all. I loved the answer. In the book, you describe purpose has a wider scope than an intention. It is more than a mere goal and bigger than ourselves. Purpose radiates. And you said, my purpose is to empower every woman to feel in charge. How did you discover your purpose? And I love
oh,
the story
oh,
about.
that's a very good question. Um, oh, Nita, what is my purpose actually? Well, my first purpose was to become independent, right? Um, um, and of course, my purpose as a mother is to be a mother. But my purpose was really to become independent and to be equal to a man. And then, as I became that, my purpose became every woman's purpose. And therefore, I use that example of me to then, because I immediately, very early on, I started have a dialogue with other women and things like that. So, yeah, my purpose is for everyone to feel equal, is to fight against abuse, violence, and inequality.
So beautiful. I want you to tell the story about when you first discovered yourself in the mirror.
Oh, no, what, uh, yeah, no, it's about, um, oh, wait, how can I start that? Uh, I think that the most important relationship in life is the one we have with ourselves. Because once we have that, then any other relationship is a plus and not a must, and we're not needy. Okay, so how did I develop a good relationship with myself? In my mother's bedroom, she had a big vanity. And I used to stare myself for hours in that vanity. Not that I liked the way I looked, because I looked very different than any other little girl in Belgium. They all had blonde, straight hair. I had black, curly hair. They had bangs. I couldn't have bangs. So it's not that I liked the way I looked. But what I realized is the power I had over that image. If I made a move, funny face, she would make a funny face. If she did this, I did that. And that for me was when I realized the power you have on yourself. You can actually make yourself do whatever you want. And so that's that. And after that, the mirror, my relationship to the mirror now, I continue. I have to say, like when I go in the bathroom in the middle of the night, I will kind of say hello or wink at
Yourself.
myself. And it's because it's the relationship with me. That's what it is.
I love that. You talk about the importance of character.
Yes, this is a present I got from Vartan Gregorian, who was an extraordinary philanthropist who died actually 2 weeks ago. And he was a refugee from, I mean, he and his grandmother survived the genocide in Armenia. And he told me one day, and it was the best advice I ever got from anyone, that his grandmother said, "Boy, listen to me. There are two things. One thing is kismet, destiny, and that you have no, I mean, you cannot decide. You have nothing. But the one thing you have complete control of is your character. You can lose your health, you can lose your wealth, you can lose your beauty, you can lose your family, you can lose your freedom, but you never lose your character, even under torture. And I love that, because your character is really the little house inside yourself. It's the shelter, and that is your core, the core of our strength. And that's what I realized. My mother too, she was in the camp, she was humiliated, she was just a number, she wasn't treated as a human being. But her character, she used to say, "I looked at my jailers in the eye." Now, I don't know, so if your character is really, really important.
You also talked about the most dangerous place for a woman to be is in the home.
Well, that is, I never realized that. And it was, I think it was last year when Gloria Steinem came out with her book, movie, and I was helping her, and she mentioned that, and talking about domestic violence, and that really shocked me. If you think that, if you ask someone, where do you think is the most dangerous place for a woman to be? And people come up with names of countries and things like that, but it is in the home, especially during the pandemic. I mean, the domestic violence really, really grew, and that is terrible. And and a lot, and it's important to talk about it and to make women feel that they don't accept it, because we have a tendency as women, because we are stronger, and because we are the nurturer, and because we always try to make everything right with the man, with the children, and that we take so much upon us and take so much upon our shoulder to protect our children and things like that. And so it's important to talk about it, so that even in our attitude, even in our relationship with men, that equality is really important.
You know, we see there are a heck of a lot more women in the boardroom, but in order to make progress, we need more women in tech and in artificial
Yes,
intelligence.
yes, yes.
Artificial intelligence was created with a man's voice and a man's eye. What can we do to change that?
Well, I'm very, very close friend with a man called Sam Altman. He's a young man who is very, very advanced in artificial intelligence. And that too, I had never realized the importance of that. And I constantly make sure that to remind him that it is so important to put the feminine energy into AI. Make sure that women's books, women's authors, women's stories, women's characters are being put in there. And of course, that there are more and more women who are coding, women who are in AI, to protect that.
You know, because fashion is a reflection of our time, where are we? And where are we with the pandemic and with fashion? And where are we headed? And how do you stay true to your core?
Oh, I mean, the pandemic was completely unexpected. And two things happened. On one side, everyone got closer to nature, appreciated nature more. You know, the change of nature. If you had a garden, oh my God, you were so lucky. And on the other side, there was the energy of nature, and on the other side, the virtual energy. You know, Everything is here in my phone. I can connect with anything, learn anything, get any classes, read anything, and that is also very powerful. And that was, I mean, the pandemic accelerated that into the virtual. As it relates to fashion, as it relates to, well, I think that people realize that that we need less, and that what we need is, which somehow in with the clothes that I make, it's always, they don't go out of style. I mean, if you go to any vintage store anywhere in the world, DVF is always there, very much in demand. And sometimes you could pick a dress that has already been in 3 generations. And so that's sustainable. So it's about, and for me as a designer, I always put the woman before the fashion. So for me, fashion serves the woman in order to make her feel better, look better, and be more confident. Because when you are more confident, you're more beautiful and you feel good. So because I started in a printed factory, printed ended up being very much the core and the identity of what I do. So, and that even in the age of Zoom, you may be wearing pajama pants, but what you wear at the top is like, you feel like a print. You want blue, so. But my advice for other people, and I had to change my business model. I had to close stores. I had to do a lot of very difficult things, and and I don't hide it. I'm telling it because I own it, and because I want other people who may be ashamed of it not to be ashamed. You got to own it, and then you solve it. And then now, of course, you're much more virtual and much more on the digital. So, so it is important to go more and more to your core, and that also is about owning it. That also is, own who you are, own what you have to offer, own the difficulties, own the vulnerability, and do the best you can.
You know, listening tonight are students from FIT and students from Barnard College. They are getting so much out of this talk. I have to thank you so much.
Oh,
I want to ask you a tough question, though. I don't know the answer. Where did you get your creativity and your fashion sense? Was it from your mother? What, how did you know that you were so talented with
I didn't.
design?
I
How did
didn't.
that happen?
I didn't go to fashion school. I went to study economics. I did not know what I wanted to do. I knew the kind of woman I wanted to be, but I did not know what I wanted to do. So my first thing with fashion, I became an assistant to a photographer's agent. He was a big photographer's agent in Paris, very famous. And my job was really to answer the phone and to tell everyone that he wasn't there because but there I learned about the world of the image of fashion, photographers, makeup, magazine, advertising, copywriting. I learned all about that, not knowing at all whether it was ever going to be useful to me. And then I met an Italian man who had a printing factory in Como. And Como is the center of silk in Italy. And he was printing silk scarves for Gucci, Ferragamo, and a lot of other people. And I went there, and he was very nice to me, but he wasn't very nice to his employees in general. And but there I learned about, how, but he was very talented. So I learned how he bought illustrations or paintings from because it was the center of silk. So illustrators and painters would go to factory to sell their work. And I learned about that, how you put it together, how you put it in repeat. I worked with the technicians, how to put a color palette together. And these people in Italy at that time, the workers, if they were colorists, their father was a colorist, the grandfather was a colorist. So it was really a craft. So I learned all about that. Then he needed more space. And because he needed more space, he bought the factory next door. And in the factory next door, those people went out of business because they were making stockings, and the pantyhose had just been created, and nobody bought stockings anymore. So he bought it for the walls. But when he saw all these knitting machines, all these tubular knitting machines, he called the yarn companies and said, "What can we do with these machines? How can we use these machines? I don't want to throw these machines." And so he started using thicker yarns, and that's when he discovered the jersey fabric. And I happened to be there. So he discovered this wonderful jersey fabric. But by then, no, women didn't wear t-shirts. Nobody really wore jersey. And he started to print on them. At that time, my boyfriend, Egon, who you knew, was in New York, and he was doing a training program for Chase Manhattan. And my mother, for the bank, and my mother gave me for my birthday a ticket to go and visit him. So I went to New York, and I spent 2 months in New York. And Egon, as you know, was very good looking, and he was a prince, and everybody was inviting him everywhere. And so I was invited everywhere. And the young designers of the time, Halston, Giorgio Santangelo, Stephen Burrows, all these people, they wanted to dress me. So I would go to the showroom and they would give me clothes. And therefore, I discovered there a whole different fashion that we didn't have in Europe. So when I went back because I had to go back to Europe, back to work. And I was so sad. How will I manage to come back to New York? What will I do? When I went back to the factory and I looked at the factory, I said, "Oh, I have an opportunity. Let me try to make some samples here and try to sell them in America." And that's how I started.
I love that story. You mentioned you were an economics major, and I wanted to give you some statistics. First of all, women control 60% of the money in the United States, but 80% of their money is controlled by men. Also, less than a third of women are even comfortable talking about money. And you and I both know that in life, you're going to hit a lot of walls and you have a lot of unexpected things, and you need to be comfortable with your finances. What advice could you give to women?
It's very funny because I went from having my brother manage my money to my son. But my son, who is a really idiot savant in finance, he finds it incredible that people are not taught finance in school. And he says that to me all the time. So I think we have to take the idea of finance out of and kind of bring it to school and explain to children what the compound, because if you compound money, and so my son, who is very um, obsessed with distribution of wealth, he is really working very hard and trying to write white paper in Washington and able to to work on that. So
I know,
as far as me giving advice, I don't know.
no, but I've met him. He's a very special man.
Yeah.
So tell me, what's next for you, the trailblazer? What's next?
Oh, well, I am, I'm 74 now, so I'm really, if I'm lucky, I'm at the sunset of my life, and probably, after that. So it's really about trying to use all of the things that I have known, all of my experiences, my knowledge, my connection, my resources, in order to help others and to have a maximum impact. But by the way, my impact is not just, big things. Impact is paying attention to anyone you talk to. I have this little game that I play when I wake up in the morning. I try to make immediately 2 emails that don't benefit me. And and with email, you can make miracles. You can introduce somebody who will never introduce this other person, and you have a magic wand. And we all have a magic wand. And the more we use our magic wand, the more powerful our magic wand is.
I love, what great advice to leave us with. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to thank you, Diane. Remember, you must buy Diane's book, Own It. And also, you can support the Same Sky Foundation by making a donation, buying Same Sky jewelry at samesky.com. And every donation and every purchase improves a woman's life. See you at the next Same Sky Foundation event. And remember to purchase Own It. You will love it, and it's a gift.
Thank you. And what I want to say is a book you can actually read to children and the Gen Z, the young people. So it's now that it's graduation time, it's a very good graduation present.
Yes, good.
Thank you so much.
You.
Thank you. And thank you so much for all the work that you do. You're a very, very generous, intelligent, and valuable woman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.